All right, everybody, welcome in to the channel. Black and Gold Breakdown, talking all things Pittsburgh Steelers. If you want to be part of the conversation, leave a comment. We'll get you as part of the show. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please be sure to do that if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, today, why the Steelers should trade TJ Watt. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to be thrilled with that opinion, but it is the opinion that I have. And not just because of, TJ posting cryptic stuff on Instagram. I've had this probably since the end of the Ravens wildcard loss. And I'm sure a lot of people have had similar thoughts, but the recent stuff with TJ, posting the Instagram story where, he's flashing the deuces and whatnot, at least led to more of a conversation about the possibility of it happening. So let me start by saying this. Love TJ Watt. As a fan, he has been one of the few things worth tuning in for every week. One of the 10 best Steelers of all time, in my opinion. Will walk into the Hall of Fame. One of the greatest defenders ever. Love him. As a fan, I, would stink to see him go. So this isn't coming from a place of, oh, I hate TJ Watt. Like, obviously not. It's from a place of, yeah, this team hasn't won anything with him. They're not going to be winning, a championship anytime soon. So it makes no sense to give him, $40 million a year to do what? Like, TJ Watt's been with this team for 8 years and they haven't won a playoff game, much less, gotten close to a championship. So there's no value in keeping or paying Watt $40 million when he's 30 years old. He's coming off of the lowest sack total that he's had for a full season in his career since his rookie year in 2017. Only had 11 and a half sacks last year. And sure, a down year for TJ Watt is, a great year for other players. But when we're used to seeing TJ Watt get 17, 18, 19, 22 and a half sacks a year, only seeing him get 11 and a half, that's a clear step back. And when you're trying to be a team that gets back to winning championship or, putting yourself in the championship picture and winning playoff games and being able to be in that conversation, the way that they've tried to do it has proven to not work. They've tried doing this whole, well, we're a defense first team. And that's fine. You can win games in the regular season with that mentality. But when it comes to the postseason, we've seen how that's gone. Look how it went against Buffalo. Look how it went last year against Baltimore. Look how it went against Kansas City. And you can, make the argument, oh, well, those are, the three of the best teams in the league. Sure, but if you can't even be competitive with those teams, then you yourself are not close to being one of those teams. And so for as much as I love TJ Watt, it makes no sense to give him that much money as a 30-year-old edge rusher when you still don't have a quarterback for the future. That would just be going backwards. At this point, he still has some value, still a great player. And if you sent him to a team like Green Bay or Buffalo or the Rams, a team that is truly on the cusp of potentially winning a championship, you'll get a nice haul in return. It might not be a first-round pick because I don't know if he's quite worth that anymore for certain teams. If you're a team like the Bills, like you don't draft very well in the first round anyway, it would be worth giving up a first-round pick for 2 to 3 years of good TJ Watt. Same thing for the Rams. All right, you've got maybe 1 or 2 runs with Matthew Stafford left. And if there's any team who would say, yeah, to hell with these picks, we'll try to win another Super Bowl, let's go get TJ Watt, it would be Les Snead and the Rams. The Packers, if he wants to go back home to Wisconsin, Green Bay's another team where, all right, they've got a really good quarterback. got a great head coach, already got other good defensive pieces in place, couple good receivers, Josh Jacobs. Like, they're a team that's going to be contending in the NFC. And if they add TJ Watt, then you can make their, okay, that could be the thing that helps put them over the top. There's going to be teams that would be interested in TJ Watt, obviously. His market would be vast if he actually does want to trade. And even if, like, he hasn't requested a trade, if you're not going to pay him and he wants paid, then send him to a team that will pay him. Even if it's just for, the short term. If it's a 2-year, $81 million extension, he's still going to be the highest paid edge rusher in the league. It would be for a 2-year period where you'll get the best play out of him. And again, if you're a team like Green Bay, Buffalo, the Rams, a team who could just be that one elite piece away from getting over the hump, then that's a price that you're going to have to pay. And again, if it ends up getting you a Super Bowl, then it doesn't matter what you trade to get him. If you have to trade a first-round pick to do it, then you do it. I don't know if they're going to get a first-round pick in this hypothetical trade. I think that a 2 and like a nice day 3 pick would be probably the vast sum of it, with a couple other future picks thrown in. But it's not going to be the Khalil Mack trade where they get a pair of first-round picks. If he was 28 and still, getting 19 sacks a year, then yeah, they would probably get that. But there was rumors when Myles Garrett, before he signed his extension with Cleveland, that they probably weren't going to get 2 first-round picks for him. So, and let me also make it very clear, this could also be very redundant because I don't think they're going to trade him. They're probably going to pay him because that's just the Steelers now. Nothing they do makes sense from a standpoint of modern football. So they'll pay TJ, if I had to guess. And again, nothing against TJ. Love TJ. But there's no value for the Steelers in keeping him other than, all right, we know that we can win 9 games if he's out there. If that's the mentality they're still going to roll with. But yeah, he'll help you be a wild card team for sure. But what are you doing past that? In the playoffs, you need offense. And the Steelers don't have that. And if you're not going to be in position to get there, then it just feels very redundant and like a waste to keep TJ Watt in Pittsburgh when you're not going to win anything with him. Armand says, I agree, trade him. Yeah, I think that there's a decent number of people who are kind of there. And again, not that we're going to be happy to see him be playing somewhere else, but like as a fan of TJ Watt, I'll be a little bit happy if he goes to a place where he can win. If he goes to one of the 3 teams I've named, he'll have a chance to win a Super Bowl. He'll be in the playoffs. He'll win playoff games. Like if you go to Buffalo, good chance you'll be in the AFC title game. Minimum, you're going to be in the divisional round. If you go to Los Angeles, you'll be in the divisional round, more than likely. You'll have a chance to get to the Rams were just a couple plays away from getting to the NFC Championship game this past January. So it's not as if they send him someplace like that he's not going to win. So hopefully they go with the smarter route. And look, it would give an opportunity for a guy like Nick Herbig to take a step forward, which would be nice. And eventually, if they feel like Alex Highsmith, maybe in 2026, if they feel like, all right, maybe we could move Alex Highsmith and get more pieces and then bring in somebody else on the edge, then maybe you do that. Or maybe Alex Highsmith would take a step forward in this hypothetical and become more of a franchise edge rusher rather than just a solid number 2. Because realistically speaking, Nick Herbig's a better pass rusher than Alex Highsmith. Highsmith's the better run stopper. Nick Herbig's the better pass rusher for sure. I know, a lot of the Highsmith truthers are, oh man, you're underrating Alex Highsmith. He's a good run stopper. Herbig's the better pass rusher, though, without a doubt in my mind. And again, this doesn't come from a place of like, oh man, all of a sudden I dislike TJ Watt. It's the opposite. If anything, I just want to see him win. I just want to see him win. And if he goes to a place like Buffalo, Green Bay, Los Angeles, I'm trying to think of other teams besides those three that would make a lot of sense for him to go. I'm not going to say Philadelphia because everybody would hate that, myself included. That would stink. Nobody wants to see him go to the Eagles. And they're not going to trade him to like Cincinnati. They're not going to trade him within the division, obviously. Minnesota, maybe. I don't think that's a Super Bowl caliber team just because I don't know how good J.J. McCarthy's going to be. And so that I have some reservations about them for that. But those top three teams that I named, I mean, all of them would make sense because all of them need a little bit of help off the edge. I understand that the Bills just signed Joey Bosa, but odds are he's going to miss some time because he always finds a way to get hurt, unfortunately. And if you can have TJ Watt and Greg Rousseau and then have Joey Bosa rotate in as like a third where you can keep him healthy for the playoffs, I think that puts you in a really good spot. And again, a team like the Rams, where the offense looks like it's going to be really good, where you've got Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams on either boundary, Kyron Williams in the backfield, and Matthew Stafford still playing good ball. Defensively is where they're lacking. They need an edge rusher. They need help in the secondary. And so a team like the Rams, I think, would jump at the opportunity. And again, Les Snead has shown before that way of team building, you can win a Super Bowl that way. They did it in the first year that they had Stafford. And it's, by the way, Matthew Stafford, far from the only guy they had Matthew Stafford. Von Miller was on that team. Jalen Ramsey was on that team. I want to say Brandon Cooks might not have been on. He was on the first Super Bowl run. I don't think he was on that second one. Regardless, though, the majority of Odell Beckham, who they brought in midseason, like all of their high impact players not named Aaron Donald or Cooper Kupp were traded for. So if any team knows that way of team building can result in a Super Bowl, it's Los Angeles. Maybe the other Los Angeles team would make the move. Maybe the Chargers would do it. You got a guy like Justin Herbert who, while yes, he's coming off a bad playoff performance, and it's completely fair if you want to move him down a few pegs in the quarterback rankings because of that. He threw 4 interceptions. Granted, like 2 of those weren't really his fault, but still not a great performance against Houston in the wildcard round. Doesn't have a playoff win yet. And if you're a team like the Chargers who want to get over that hump, want to take advantage of having Justin Herbert, then maybe you bring in TJ Watt to help your defense. Houston doesn't make sense because they got Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. They don't need edge rushers. Their defense is, I mean, it looks great on paper. They need offense. If we just want to go division by division with it like we always do. If the Steelers would do right by Watt and would send him to a place where he could win in this hypothetical, because again, I don't think they're going to trade him. I think they should. Don't think they will. But let's say that if they do, they send him to a place where, all right, we're going to send you somewhere where you have a realistic chance of winning. AFC South, I don't think anybody besides Houston would make sense. And even then, Houston doesn't make sense because their defense is good. Not going to send them to Jacksonville, Tennessee, or Indy. AFC West, God help us, don't send them to the Chiefs. Please don't send them to the Chiefs. Like I said, the Chargers make sense. Vegas. Imagine TJ Watt and Max Crosby on opposite ends of each other. Don't know if it will make them a Super Bowl team, but damn, would that be fun. Pete Carroll, Geno under center. Geno's an upper half starter in the league. They need help at receiver. But I could, as a fan, I'm a big Max Crosby guy. Putting TJ Watt on the other side of Max Crosby, that would be at least fun. Again, don't know if it'll make them a Super Bowl caliber team, but I think with Geno and Pete Carroll there, if you add another piece for Geno to throw to, defensively they're already pretty solid. I think it would be very cool to see him in Vegas. Denver, maybe Denver. I understand that Broncos fans had a little bit of a qualm with me this past year because I, kind of crapped on Bo Nix a little bit. I still don't think that they're a Super Bowl team. If you add TJ Watt, that probably takes you up a step. I don't think that Denver all of a sudden becomes a Super Bowl team. I still think that I have questions about if Bo Nix can be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but it will be interesting. I mean, the defense is already pretty good. NFC North, obviously, Green Bay makes sense. We've talked about that. From Wisconsin. If he wants to go back home, he has a chance to win a Super Bowl there. Makes perfect sense. And I think that that would be one of the three teams that would make the most sense. Detroit would also make sense. They need another edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. They have a lot to prove this year themselves, though, especially losing both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. The Bears. Would the Bears, if you're TJ, do you think you have a chance of winning a championship with the Bears? That's the question you got to ask yourself. I think Caleb is a fine. He had a good rookie year, despite what everybody wants you to think. Like, because he wasn't Jaden Daniels, that means that he stinks. Not Caleb had a fine rookie year. And then Minnesota, we already talked about, maybe, but I don't know if they're a Super Bowl team. NFC East, and while we're talking about Jaden Daniels, Washington would make perfect sense. They need edge rushers. I think him and a Dan Quinn defense would be good. I don't think Washington's going to be as good as they were this past year in terms of how many wins they have, because a lot of those wins were, cardiac last second type things where that doesn't carry over every year. They'll be a playoff team. I don't think that they're going to be, that lucky again, because a lot of it was luck. Not to say that they were bad or anything, but like a lot of the win against the Bears, like pure luck. Fun, but pure luck. Nonetheless, Washington would make sense. Dallas, I don't know. If you're TJ Watt and you see Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach, are you really confident that you can win a Super Bowl? I'm not. Dak's good. CeeDee Lamb's great. Outside of that, there's not a lot to be excited about in Dallas. The Giants, no. Philadelphia, obviously, but anybody but the Chiefs or Eagles, I think, is the general consensus. NFC South. Buccaneers, they've been to the playoffs 2 straight years, but I don't think that they're in the Super Bowl caliber tier of teams. And then everybody else in that division, like Carolina, no. New Orleans, no. Atlanta, no. NFC West. 49ers. That would be interesting, considering they've gotten rid of like everybody good on the Super Bowl team. They're just completely turned over. So that would be interesting. I just don't know if I believe in the 49ers as being like that full-blown powerhouse like they've been for the past half decade. Seahawks, no. I just don't think that that's going to work. Sam Darnold, like, if they would have moved off of Geno and just embraced a rebuild, that would have made sense. But they moved off Geno and paid Sam Darnold a lot of money, traded away DK Metcalf, then signed Cooper Kupp to go along with JSN. Like, it's been a weird offseason for them. Arizona, we do the same thing with Arizona every year. We're like, we drink the Kool-Aid. They start off winning a few games. They fall apart. Everybody says, Kyler Murray should be better than this. And then we repeat the cycle. Arizona is just kind of a mess. And then the Rams. We talked about the Rams a lot already. Let's get to some comments here. I would trade him as a Steelers fan. He has 1 sack in 4 playoff games. He's also always hurt. I want to say he's not always hurt. He had the 1 year, obviously, where he hurt the pec. But I mean, if you look at his career numbers, let's take a look real quick just to see what his numbers are in terms of games played, because I guarantee you they're pretty solid. Last year, played in all 17 games. The year before that, played in all 17 games. Year before that, hurt the pec. Year before that, 15 games. Year before that, 15 games. So every year aside from the pec injury, he's played in at least 15 games. I don't know where this narrative from he's always hurt came from. As a Steelers fan, I'd trade him. Okay, sorry, that was the same one. And in terms of like the 1 sack in his playoff career thing, a lot of that Like, yeah, the defense hasn't played great, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're always on the field during the postseason. Like, if you're on the field for 40 minutes a game, yeah, you're going to get tired and you're going to give up points and yards. Like, what has the offense done to help them since TJ's been a Steeler? It's a fair question to ask. Against Kansas City, boat raced. Against Buffalo, boat raced on defense. Against Baltimore, boat raced. So, like, offensively, they haven't carried their weight. Where against Kansas City, they couldn't put up points. Against Buffalo, they were down 24-3. The offense was just constant 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And against Baltimore, they didn't do anything either. So, yeah, the defense hasn't been good at all in the postseason, but a lot of that also has to do with the offense never establishes long enough drives, and they're always on the field. Expect a 2025 first or 2026 first after trading TJ Watt. If you mean that they would get that in return, I certainly wouldn't expect them to get 2 first-round picks in return for. I don't think they'll get 1 first-round pick for him. Maybe from like the top-tier teams. They certainly won't get 2 first-round picks for him. But if like you're a Buffalo or Los Angeles, would you give up your 2025 first for Watt? Probably. But I don't think you're going to get. You're definitely not going to get 2 first-round picks for him. And again, as a fan, love TJ. And he's one of my favorite Steelers ever. And he's one of the very few players that has been worth tuning into or tuning in for during this post-Ben stretch. But it makes a lot more sense from a business standpoint to trade him, get as much as you can for him, rather than paying a 30-year-old edge rusher who's on the decline $40+ million a year. Just that doesn't make any sort of sense from a business standpoint. And as a TJ Watt fan, I would love to see him go win a championship somewhere. Green Bay, Los Angeles, Buffalo, those are my 3 like favorite landing spots for him because the best chances that he has to win. And you could throw Kansas City and Philadelphia in there as best chances he has to win, but God knows no one wants to see him play for the Chiefs or Eagles. So if he goes to the Rams, Bills, or Packers, he has a good shot at winning a Super Bowl, win some playoff games, continue, building his legacy. I mean, imagine if he went to the Packers and won a Super Bowl. That would be his Reggie White story. Obviously, Reggie White's better and, an all-timer. TJ Watt's also an all-timer, though. And going from a Pennsylvania team where you can't quite get over the hump to Green Bay and helping them win a Super Bowl, I think that would be pretty cool. Have his, like I said, basically his Reggie White moment. Obviously, being from Wisconsin, I'm sure would play a large part in him wanting to go to Green Bay if he did get moved and, had any sort of say in where he would want to go. But I think that would be cool. Like, I want to see him win. And he isn't going to win in Pittsburgh, unfortunately. Ideally, if you did get a player, what player would you get from teams you listed for TJ? I don't know if they'd get a player. I think it would just be a haul of picks. Because especially if like you're the Rams and you do give up and you say, all right, fine, we'll give you our first round pick for TJ. And then if you're the Steelers in that situation, you might send like a day 3 pick in return as well. But if it's just like a straight up thing, like, all right, we'll give you our 1 for TJ, then I don't foresee another player coming back with a deal like that. Green Bay, maybe you get one of those receivers. Like if you can get a Romeo Doubs as part of the deal, that would be worth doing. Romeo Doubs is good. And their receiving totem pole is kind of coming to fruition a little bit more. Like Jaden Reed's the number 1. Christian Watson's the 2 when he's healthy. So you could probably rotate Watson and Doubs a little bit, and I think one of those guys could get traded. Dontavian Wicks is the 4. They also rotate in guys like Malik Heath. So like they got a lot of receivers, and you can maybe get one of those guys in return as part of a deal. That would be cool. Like if you get a 2 and Romeo Doubs for TJ Watt and a 6, and maybe you get like an additional like 2026 4 in there, that's fine. You get a good player, a premium draft pick in this year's class, and a nice day 3 pick next year. I mean, and maybe an additional day 3 pick. Like, truthfully, I don't know what the trade package would look like, because trades have a weird way of just being so different when it comes to whoever makes them. But if you can get Romeo Doubs in a deal and a second round pick while also sending Watt and potentially a day 3 pick in return, I think that would be fine. Like sending Watt in a 6th. I live right outside Philly, and all my buddies are Eagles fans. They're praying somehow they can finesse Omar. I hope not. Nobody wants to see the Eagles get another star player. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs get another star player. It's similar to when like Kobe and Shaq, like those Lakers teams were trying for a three-peat, and they brought in Gary Payton and they brought in Karl Malone. I think Ron Harper was on that team too. And they lost to, was it Detroit they lost to that year? So like nobody wants to see TJ go to either Philadelphia or Kansas City for obvious reasons. Could have gotten a haul of first rounders after trading Antonio Brown to the Raiders. Antonio Brown, I mean, that whole thing was a mess. I don't even remember what they got for Antonio Brown. What did they get for Antonio Brown? Let's see what they got for Antonio Brown. The Raiders sent the Steelers their 2019 third round pick and their 5th round pick. Which, I mean, for an aging receiver, that was probably fair. And for a guy who like clearly took away all the leverage the Steelers had by making it clear he didn't want to be there. Raiders won that trade by a mile. I mean, not really. He didn't play a game for them. The Steelers got free picks. So no, the Raiders definitely lost that trade because they sent 2 draft picks for a guy that never played for them. That whole thing was just a mess. Because he threw a fit during like training camp or something over a helmet, and then he like cursed out John Gruden or something. I can't remember the exact details of it, but yeah, he never played a regular season snap for the Raiders. And then they got rid of him, and then all the stuff about like the potential, was it like some sort of assault where they released him. He got released for the Raiders thing. The Patriots picked him up, and then the stuff about the possible assault came out. Then the Patriots released him. Just a mess. Just a mess. Do you think Rodgers is the next quarterback? If not, who? I think Rodgers is the next guy. Won't be Kirk Cousins. Unless if he waives his no trade clause and for some reason Rodgers isn't there, if Atlanta would eat a good chunk of the salary, maybe they would do something there. I think they would just ride it out with Mason and draft whomever in 2026. Don't think it's going to be Jackson Dart. I'm not a big Jackson Dart truther. Not going to pretend to be an expert because I'm not. From what I have seen, though, wouldn't be the guy I'd take. And again, I've said the same thing for the last 3 months, which is why I'm going to keep saying this. Move the draft up. Enough of this. I was on Jacksonville radio earlier, and I just kind of went on a tangent talking about how the draft needs to be moved up at least 2 weeks. We could have had the draft be done already. We're done hearing the word mock draft. We're done talking about who's going to land where. Instead, we have to have an extra month after the combine and all the pro days are done, repeating the same stuff over and over, and it just gets exhausting. So, that being said, I don't think it'll be Jackson Dart. I think they're going to take a quarterback like day 3, which to me, again, waste of a pick. Because what's the best case scenario there? He becomes a good backup. You can sign good backups. Like if it was me, I'm never drafting a quarterback after round 2. And yeah, you get the rare occasion where some of them turn out to be good. Kirk was, I think, a 4th round pick. Dak was a 4th round pick. But those are very much exceptions to the rule, not the rule itself. So, no, their plan is pretty clear. They've got a bunch of comp picks next year. They're going to use a lot of that ammunition to try to trade up. Similar to what the Bills did for Josh Allen. I wrote about this already. I think they're going to do something very similar to what the Bills did for Josh Allen. They're not only going to trade up once, they're going to trade up twice. Because the Bills traded up with Tampa. I want to say they traded up with Tampa first and then another team to get to Josh. Or they traded up with another team first and then traded with Tampa. Either way, they traded up twice to get Allen. So they moved from, I think it was 20 to 12 and then 12 to 7. And I think that's what the Steelers are going to have to do because there's not going to be many teams that are picking in like the top 5 to 7 who are going to want to go from, say, 6 to 21. But they'll happily go from like 6 to 13 if you can give them, a nice haul. And this is why, keep an eye on the Tennessee Titans this year for one reason and one reason only. A, they're taking Cam Ward. They're not going to take a quarterback in consecutive years in the first round unless he just looks absolutely god awful. Then maybe he'll get, Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray'd. But for all intents and purposes, the Titans are going to take Cam Ward this year, but they're still going to be bad. And so that's a team similar to what the Patriots had with Drake May, where, okay, they might have their quarterback for 2026 and maybe beyond, but they're still going to pick between 4 and 6. And that's a team that you look at and say, okay, we're going to circle them. They're not going to take a quarterback. We'll trade up with them, and then we'll take our quarterback there. So if you're a Steelers fan, pay close attention to the Tennessee Titans this year and where their draft position is set to be, because that's the team that you'll probably end up trading with. Know you're a Bills guy. What's your outlook for them this year? I mean, right now they still need at least one more receiver. Matt Collins is gone, and he provided more than what a lot of people thought he would. They need somebody else on the boundary. If you're the Bills, you can go get Chris Olave. Yeah, do that. If you can trade for somebody like that to give you a really long-term boundary option. Looks like my light just went out. Let's see if we can get that back on. But if you can get yourself a long-term boundary option in Buffalo, absolutely do that. Because that just makes the most sense. All right, let me take a quick little break to get all this technical malfunction handled. I'll be back in 30 seconds. All right. All is well. Working this double monitor. Or I might just go out again. So, mistake. My apologies for that. So if it gets a little bit dim, that's why. Are the Bills going to pay Cook? Brandon Beane's already said they're shelving conversations for this year at least. So I'm wondering if it ends up being a Le'Veon Bell situation where he holds out and ends up losing. I think they should. I don't know if it's $15 million a year that he deserves, but he's a good player. He's a valuable player. Any guy that gets 21 total touchdowns from week 1 to the end of the playoffs, that's a valuable guy. So, that's when you look at the market right now, I think it would make him the second or third highest paid running back in terms of annual average value if they gave him 15 a year. Or might be second behind only McCaffrey. But But, sometimes those are the bullets you got to bite. But if they think that they can find similar ability and value, then they'll probably look elsewhere and let him walk. Russell Wilson going to ball out with Neighbors and Travis Hunter. Got to tell you, I don't think he's gonna. I don't think the Giants are going to do anything this year. Malik Neighbors might have a fine year, but I don't think that Russell Wilson's all of a sudden going to become a superstar again. I think we saw the absolute peak of what he could do last year. That's not all of a sudden going to get better with Brian Daboll, a worse roster, a bigger media hub where things are just going to be even under an even bigger microscope. We saw the peak of what he could do last year. But I think that's a good place to cut it for the evening. And again, I think the moral, or I guess the overarching message of this for me is like, love TJ Watt as a Steeler and as a Steelers fan, what he's meant to the team over the last decade, but they haven't won anything with him. He's slowly starting to decline, and I think it makes perfect sense to move him now, get some sort of value while you can for him, rather than giving him more than $40 million a year in his next deal while you still don't have a quarterback, having all that money tied into a defense that, as many have pointed out, haven't gotten the job done. And while I think it might be a little over scrutinized because the offense has also been terrible, the criticisms are very fair for the defense. So I think that it makes the most sense to send him to a contender where you can get the most trade value for him. And I think the three teams that make the most sense are the Buffalo Bills, Los Angeles Rams, and the Green Bay Packers. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please be sure to do so. Leave a comment, share it around, do all that fun YouTube stuff. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back later on in the week with the Pump Fake to talk more stuff, national NFL news. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, all of that fun stuff. And if you're going to listen to the Pump Fake, wherever you get your podcast, leave a review. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. See you soon.